When the legendary actress Natalie Wood tragically drowned in 1981, she left her two young daughters, Natasha and Courtney, right in the middle of a Hollywood storm that still rages today. They were just 11 and 7 years old. This is the story of how they survived that storm, the very different paths they took, and how one sister's fight to clear her stepfather's name would change everything we thought we knew. Number 2. Natasha Gregson Wagner. Born on September 29, 1970, her mom was the one and only Natalie Wood, and her dad was the British film producer Richard Gregson. Her godmother was another famous actress, Ruth Gordon. Her life was literally a movie set. But that perfect picture didn't last long. Her parents split up when she was just a baby, only 10 months old. Then, in 1972, her mom, Natalie, did something that grabbed headlines everywhere. She remarried her ex-husband, the actor Robert Wagner. For Natasha, this man, Robert Wagner, or RJ as he was known, would become the most important male figure in her life. A couple of years later, her half-sister, Courtney Wagner, was born, and their family was complete. Even with all the Hollywood drama, Natasha remembers her childhood as being filled with incredible love. She later wrote a book called More Than Love, and in it, she describes a warm, loving, and slightly chaotic childhood. This wasn't an accident. Her mother, Natalie, had been working since she was a little girl, basically supporting her own family. She was determined that her daughters would have the real childhood she never got. What did that look like? It meant regular school, strict bedtimes, and tons of time to just play and be kids. Their house wasn't just a fancy Hollywood mansion. It was a home. Natasha says it was alive with animals. Dogs, cats, guinea pigs, mice, you name it. Natalie had a special way with them, especially the ugly ones, and could calm any animal with her gentle voice. Natalie wasn't just a movie star. She was a mom who was deeply involved. She even had her own interior design business for a while, decorating homes for her friends. Natasha looked back on this time and realized something profound about her mother. She said that writing her book cemented for her Natalie's deep desire to know herself, to be a self-reflective person. She took every role seriously: motherhood, acting, being a wife, a friend, and supporting causes she believed in. Natasha simply said, "I'm just so proud of her." That warm, loving world came to a sudden, brutal end on November 29, 1981. Natalie Wood was on a Thanksgiving boat trip near Catalina Island, California. Natasha was 11. She describes the moment she found out as waking to news that she had drowned. It was a loss so profound and shattering that it plunged her into what she calls the lost and confused years of her adolescence. In the middle of this unimaginable nightmare, a truly remarkable decision was made. Natasha's biological father, Richard Gregson, and her stepfather, Robert Wagner, came together. They both agreed that the best thing for Natasha was for her to stay with Wagner. This meant Natasha and her younger sister, Courtney, could grow up together, side by side, in a stable home. It was an act of incredible love and cooperation, putting the children's needs above everything else during a time of intense grief. This upbringing solidified a deep, unshakable bond between Natasha and Robert Wagner. He had already been a father figure, but now he was the man who raised her through her darkest days. This foundation of care is absolutely critical to understanding why, decades later, Natasha would become his fiercest defender. After finishing high school, Natasha went to college for a bit, but left in 1992. She had decided to step into the family business, acting. Natasha didn't waste any time. Her first movie role was in a 1992 film called Fathers and Sons. That same year, she had a small part in a movie you might have heard of, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, she built a really interesting career. She wasn't trying to be the next Natalie Wood. Instead, she seemed drawn to edgier independent films. She was in David Lynch's strange and brilliant neo-noir film, Lost Highway. She starred with Robert Downey Jr. and Heather Graham in Two Girls and a Guy. She was in the hit teen slasher movie Urban Legend. And she played one of John Cusack's ex-girlfriends in the classic romantic comedy High Fidelity. She also did a lot of TV work. She even appeared with her stepfather, Robert Wagner, in a heart-to-heart TV movie in 1995. One of her biggest TV roles was on the science fiction show, The 4400, where she had a recurring role as April Scories. She also popped up in huge shows like ER, House, and CSI. Her career shows a clear choice to build her own identity, to be known for her own work, not just for being Natalie Wood's daughter. Natasha's personal life also had its Hollywood chapters. For many years, she was with Josh Evans, whose parents are also famous, actress Ally McGraw and producer Robert Evans. She later married a screenwriter, but that marriage ended. Then she found lasting love with actor Barry Watson, who many people remember from the show Seventh Heaven. They got married in 2014. In 2012, Natasha and Barry had a daughter, Clover Clementine Watson. Becoming a mother was a huge moment for Natasha. She said it was a beautifully fulfilling job, and that she learned how to be a good mom from her own mother, Natalie. But losing her own mom so young deeply affected how she parents Clover. She once said, "Losing my mom shaped so much of my life, how I parent my kids. I want to be present for them as much as possible. There's always this thought, you might not be here tomorrow, so you need to savor every moment." She turned her own devastating loss into a powerful promise to her own daughter. For almost 40 years, the story of Natalie Wood's death was told by strangers, by tabloids, and by speculators. The narrative was often dark, full of suspicion, and focused only on the tragedy. In 2020, Natasha decided to take back the story. She released two massive projects at the same time: her memoir, More Than Love, and an HBO documentary called Natalie Wood, What Remains Behind. This was not a coincidence. It was a carefully planned mission. Her book is an incredibly intimate look at her life, her grief, and growing up in that Hollywood shadow. But it had a very clear goal: to reclaim her mother from all the tawdry gossip, and to finally address the questions surrounding her death. Specifically, she wanted to clear Robert Wagner's name. She said she felt her mother would have wanted her to write it, calling the book a love letter to Natalie Wood. The documentary was the visual part of her mission. Natasha co-produced it and is the guide through the film. She wanted to shift the focus from how her mom died to how she lived. Her amazing movies, her love of family, and her incredible personality. The film is packed with never-before-seen home movies, photos, and diary entries. The most powerful moment in the entire documentary is when Natasha sits down and interviews Robert Wagner herself. It was her decision. She had to be the one to ask him about that night. You can see the pain in his eyes as he tells her, "Everything went out from under me," when he learned his wife's body had been found. The director said you could feel the pain of the tragedy in a deep, deep way in the room. These two projects were Natasha's way of processing her own grief, but they were also a public declaration. She was taking control of the narrative and presenting a united family front against all the speculation. To understand Natasha, you have to understand her loyalty to Robert Wagner. Over the years, the official story of Natalie's death has changed. Initially, in 1981, it was ruled an accidental drowning. The theory was she might have slipped trying to secure the yacht's dinghy. But in 2011, the case was reopened. In 2012, her death certificate was changed to drowning and other undetermined factors. Then, in 2018, the Sheriff's Department named Robert Wagner a person of interest. They were clear it was a suspicious death investigation, not a murder investigation. Through all of this, Natasha has been a rock. She has forcefully and publicly defended Wagner. She said, "It's outrageous and completely unacceptable that others have created this narrative about my dad and the night my mom died. Her belief in him is absolute. I know that if my mom had been in any kind of distress, he would have given his life for her. I know that, as well as I know my name." This defense is made even more complicated by another family member, Natasha's aunt, Lana Wood, Natalie's younger sister. Lana has been very vocal about her suspicions and has even written her own book, implying Wagner was involved. This disagreement has caused a deep rift in the family. Natasha reportedly has no contact with her aunt. It's a heartbreaking example of how one tragedy can tear a family apart in different ways. Number 1, Courtney Wagner. Born on March 9, 1974, she was the only child from Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner's famous second marriage. She grew up in that same blended, loving family with her half-sister Natasha and her stepsister, Katie Wagner. Courtney herself remembers that time as pure happiness. In the HBO documentary, she said, From as far back as I can remember, my family was so happy. I can remember feeling the love and happiness in the air. When Natalie died, Courtney was only 7 years old. A child's mind can't fully process that kind of trauma. Her memories of her mother are more like feelings and flashes. In a rare interview years ago, she shared something heartbreaking. "I don't remember very much about my mother. I do remember her laugh, and I remember her hands. Things like that made me feel close to her." It's these small sensory details that have kept her mother's presence alive for her. Losing her mother at such a tender age, and in such a public and mysterious way, would understandably cast a very long shadow over her entire life. After Natalie's death, she and Natasha were raised by their father, Robert Wagner, with their older stepsister Katie stepping in to help. Katie said, "They were just 11 and 7 when Natalie died. I stood by my dad's side and we loved them as best we could." The family pulled together tightly. As she grew up, Courtney made a conscious choice to stay away from the family business of acting. While her sister Natasha and stepsister Katie built careers in front of the camera, Courtney turned to art and design. She co-founded a high-end jewelry line called Wagner & Co. with a childhood friend. The brand was successful, attracting celebrity clients like Cameron Diaz and Ozzy Osbourne. This career choice was brilliant. It allowed her to be creative and build her own success, but it also gave her something she clearly valued more than fame: privacy. She could be an artist without having to constantly be compared to her iconic parents. Courtney's life has not been easy. She has fought a very serious battle with drug addiction. This became public in 2012 when she was arrested on suspicion of drug possession. It was a difficult, painful time that showed the immense pressure and unresolved pain she had been carrying for years. But Courtney's story is ultimately one of incredible resilience and recovery. Her sister Natasha spoke about it with so much admiration, saying, "Courtney is somebody who lives in the truth, and her recovery demands that of her. She is not ashamed of her struggles." Courtney herself has been remarkably open and honest about her past. She explained, "For me, I found ways to numb the rage and heartbreak I experienced throughout my life. I self-medicated with drugs, and it actually worked for me for many, many years." So, what was the turning point? It was family. She said, "Both my sisters had children, and it was getting harder and harder to mask the shame and guilt I had because I knew it was breaking my father's heart, and that was something I could no longer do. And so, with many bumps in the road and a lot of hard work, I pulled myself together." Her honesty is powerful. She admits she was trying to numb the rage and heartbreak from her childhood trauma, and it was the love for her family, not wanting to hurt her father, and the presence of her nieces that gave her the strength to fight for her life. Through everything, the one constant in Courtney's life has been her family. The shared tragedy of losing their mother bonded her, Natasha, Katie, and their father in a way few can understand. Courtney said, "My dad and sisters experienced a true tragedy together. We had each other to make living bearable." Like Natasha, Courtney is fiercely loyal to her father. When the investigation into her mother's death was reopened and the accusations against Robert Wagner started all over again, she was furious. "It made me feel especially angry for all the terrible things said about my father," she stated. "I was furious at the accusations. It felt incredibly disrespectful. It was so transparent that certain people exploited my family like this, and it makes me very protective of my father. The constant public pressure didn't break them. It made them stronger and more united." Today, Courtney Wagner lives a life that is mostly hers and hers alone. She is known to be publicity averse and stays off social media. It's a clear choice to live life on her own terms. The lives of Natasha Gregg